Is Sony smothering the creativity of its smaller internal studios? Also, what's going on with MLB The Show on Xbox? Well, let's go ahead, together, as a people of course, and take it out! And welcome to another sensational Sunday. I'm Mike, and this week I'm talking all about Sony and its internal studios, and also we're going to touch on the MLB The Show situation with Xbox as well. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it. Basically, Jason Schreier from Bloomberg did this article about Sony kind of hampering the development of this smaller ragtag studio that kind of came up from their visual arts team. Basically, the visual arts team, they're basically in charge of kind of finishing up the game and making it pretty at the end of development. So basically the story details how Michael Mombauer, he was in charge of the visual arts department in 2007. He put together like a small team from, various teams within Sony, including people in the visual arts department, because they wanted to be like a little studio so they could work on bigger projects other than just doing the finishing touches on existing games. They kind of wanted to do their own thing. Essentially, they wanted to do their own game, but they knew Sony wasn't going to have it because they've been obsessed with these big blockbuster releases, like your Uncharted, your Horizons, your Last of Us Part 2. Those type of games are going to bring them a lot of money. God of War, I forgot to throw that in there. But basically, they went to them and was like, hey, we want to work on The Last of Us Remastered, because they knew that that game wouldn't need as much work because it was from 2013. I think they said they wanted to originally do Uncharted, the first Uncharted, but that was from 2007, so that would have required more work because obviously that would require gameplay updates, etc. Whereas like Last of Us would be mostly like a visual upgrade. To summarize a lot of the article, basically Sony never acknowledged the existence of this team. They didn't even have a name for their studio, so they got greenlit to work on this project, The Last of Us Remastered, and then basically they got pulled to do visual work to finish up The Last of Us 2, and basically they got pulled off the project, and that project ended up going back to Naughty Dog. There are a couple other stories as well, like with Sony just not wanting to take the risk on other games, like Days Gone 2 apparently was pitched and they shot it down because the first game didn't perform the way that they wanted it to, and also the reception was kind of mixed on it. I never played it personally, but that's kind of what I heard. It was okay. So essentially what it comes down to is it seems like Sony is only trusting their bigger established studios to do anything. Like, they have all of these studios under their umbrella, but they're basically letting them do finishing touches for bigger games, but not trusting them to do full projects on their own. And also the article kind of details that they basically said that they're not going to work on smaller niche projects anymore, which is evidenced by them shutting down their Japan studio, the ones that bought games like Ape Escape. The only team that survived was the team that did Astro's Playroom, though, like the Astro games for PlayStation. So that team survived, but a lot of the people that did the older PlayStation games were released. This was a few months ago. It just seems like unless it's going to be a smash hit, or in Astro's case, it's pretty much like a demo for the system, kind of like what Knack was. That was also one of the creator of Knack also got released as part of the Japan studio. But yeah, if you look at it, basically they're just we're only going to focus on these big AAA titles. We're not going to do smaller games anymore. At least that's what this story kind of details. And if you remember games like when the Vita was out, Gravity Rush, which later came to PS4, of course, and Tearaway, which was one of my favorite games on the Vita. That was awesome. You get these awesome games, and maybe they're not hits at first. They did do a Gravity Rush 2. I don't think the game set the world on fire or anything, but it was a fun game. I like Gravity Rush. Never played the second one. But yeah, there are good games that can be made at a lower budget to kind of, fill in their library. I don't think everything needs to be a AAA hit. And I understand that's what made Sony successful, especially with this last generation. People were talking about God of War and Horizon, Last of Us Part 2. Those are some of the tentpole games for that generation. But I think that kind of having all these studios and not letting them do more and make games, even smaller games, or even work on a remaster, not trusting the studio to fully do a remaster, it kind of sucks. I think certain people are going to prosper in that environment, but there are some people who like working with a smaller team, and maybe that's not going to be a good fit at Sony. A lot of the people that were on that team ended up leaving because of the issues, because they wanted to do more than just do finishing touches on the game. They wanted to be able to do bigger projects without having to be under the head of one of the bigger studios, just to kind of exist to be able to do something on their own, which to me would also make sense, because if those bigger studios are working on like their next game, then they might not even have the resources, or it might be easier to have a smaller studio work on something like a remaster. So I don't know what Sony's whole deal is, or if any of this stuff is true. I mean, he did interview people, so that's just what's been said, but obviously Sony themselves hasn't said anything about this officially. But yeah, if the stories are coming out, it kind of sucks. And it sucks because we might not see ever see another Gravity Rush or Tearaway, and of course we'll never see another Ape Escape at this point. And that would have been a really cool game to bring back, especially with this new controller, with the adaptive triggers and the haptics and the speaker and all that stuff. You could have done a lot more with that game, but it just seems like Sony is not really interested in making games like that anymore. At least potentially from this article. I hope that this changes and it's not 100% true, because if so, it really sucks. Now, to transition away from that, let's talk about a game that Sony did develop and had been a PlayStation exclusive up until this year. That's MLB The Show. So this was announced towards the end of 2019 that as part of their new contract with MLB, in order to basically keep the license to be able to make this game, they had to bring it to other consoles. So we already knew that it was going to come to Xbox, but Microsoft was able to snag it for Game Pass. So basically on day one, MLB The Show is going to be available to Game Pass subscribers. And then on the PlayStation side, it's going to be kind of weird, because the only way to play it is going to be, to buy the game full price. I don't know if they'll end up doing something with like PlayStation Plus subscribers, where they'll offer it for free or maybe offer a discount for it. But it has kind of put them in a weird position where, like, if you have an Xbox, the Sony developed game is actually a lot cheaper to play on that platform than it is on Sony's old platform, and they developed the game. Now, the deal with Microsoft was made through MLB, because technically they're the ones who are publishing the game for Xbox. So Sony already put out a statement saying they basically had nothing to do with it, that it was the MLB's decision to allow the game to be on Game Pass. That makes a lot of sense, because I don't see Sony wanting to do that, even though they had to agree to develop it for other platforms. I don't see them making a deal with Microsoft to put it on Game Pass, no matter how much money Microsoft would have offered them. So definitely believe it was MLB that made that decision. But yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. It's just kind of like, this game was a PlayStation exclusive for the longest time. Now it's coming on Xbox, and it's actually, technically a better deal if you have Game Pass. So yeah, I don't know what Sony is going to do to counteract this. I don't know if this is going to kind of sour their relationship with MLB. I'm wondering if they'll even, renew the license after this current deal expires. We'll just have to see how it goes. And also, we don't know how long it's going to be on Game Pass. It might be like a short-term thing. Honestly, I feel like it was kind of a flex by Microsoft. It was like, oh, let's get this PlayStation developed game on Game Pass just to show them that we can. That's kind of the way I feel about it. I mean, it's good for people on Xbox that want to play it. I mean, people on PlayStation, that's not really going to affect them. If you were going to buy the game anyway, you can still buy it. It's just technically there's a better deal on Xbox for it. And like I said, we'll see if PlayStation does anything on their end to kind of counteract what Microsoft is doing with the game. So that'll be interesting to see how that develops. But that's what I got for you today. I will be back on Wednesday with my first impressions of the PlayStation 5 to kind of talk about my likes and dislikes. But if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and always do at least 2 things.